Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2021 and the final part of this experiment where we have got the perfect team in Football Manager. And today what we're going to do is disband the perfect team. We're going to fire absolutely all of them so that they can go to other clubs, and then we'll see them fight it out over who's going to be the best player in the world, who's going to win the big competitions, and also see what happens to Slough Town after they lose all of these players, because obviously Slough have had this incredible rise from the Vanarama National League South all the way up to the top of the Premier League, winning the Premier League in their first season and then winning it 4 more years after that as well. So they've had a really good time of it. They've won many Champions League titles, lots of other competitions alongside it, and they've become probably the most reputable club in the world as a result. So it's going to be really interesting when they lose those 11 players. What happens? Can they still compete, or are they going to drop down? And of course we'll also see how Gibraltar get on, and I would also like to look at how some of the players get on if they have careers after football. You know, do they go on and become football managers? Do they become director of football? Whatever it is, I'm going to have a look at each and every one of the players and see where they end up in the long term. So this could be a slightly longer episode than usual. I'm going to try and keep it pretty succinct with what we look at, but what we'll do is start off by releasing all of these players, and then we'll go forward probably about 5 years to begin with, just to check on where they are. Then we'll jump to the end of their playing career, and then we'll do another jump just ahead into the future to see if they have manager careers afterwards. So let's release all these players now and go 5 years into the future. Well, we have gone 5 years into the future, and we're going to start off by having a look at Slough Town because I'm too interested to know what actually happened. And you can see this game here, I think, was the last one where they had the perfect team. They just won the Club World Championship final, and they start off with a 1-1 draw against Fiorentina. They do lose the Community Shield as well, their first defeat for a very long time, before winning the European Super Cup. Troy Parrott, their leading man at this point, as they beat Spurs 3-2. To their league campaign, a draw, a defeat, a defeat, a defeat. Terrible start before finally they beat Crystal Palace 3-0. Their campaign has been pretty rocky. They sort of turn it around at Christmas, and they're still going into cup competitions. They do make it to the knockout stages of the Champions League, but they lose to PSG. They also lose in the FA Cup quarter-final against Manchester City 1-0. And there was no Premier League title that season. The following season, out to Spurs in the Carabao Cup, lots of defeats in the league. FA Cup, make it to the semis, but then lose out, and you can see no European football that season either, so they struggled there. Year after that, little Carabao Cup run, making it to the semi-finals before being knocked out by Manchester United, also knocked out by Burnley, and no European football once more. And it looks like they're still not getting European football out in the quarterfinals there. And the most recent season, they have another Carabao Cup run, but losing the final 3-0 to Man City. So that takes you up to the present day for Slough Town, and you can see their league positions 11th, 8th, 8th, 11th and 10th. They have become a mid-table team immediately after winning the title. It's just not been a great time for them. Just have a quick look at these transfers as well. So we left off here. In order to replace the players they lost, £256 million spent. Year after that, they had to sell players to get some money back in for financial fair play. Then they spend, then they sell, then they spend. And I imagine that this season they will sell again. So you can see it's not going to be a great time for Slough. I feel like they're probably settled though as a Premier League team in the mid-table area. Looking at their senior squad, there's a decent number of high-value players in there. You can also see that they are now managed by Paul Pogba. Somebody did ask to see the list of managers, and you can see them here. Their initial rise all led by Neil Baker, who was in charge until 2025. I don't know what happened to him. He's still a manager. He's actually a manager of Manchester United now, even though he's only got a continental license. So I'm really interested. So he took over at Slough, won all these competitions. He then went to Manchester United, and he's been there, it looks like, ever since leaving the club, because he left in 2025, which is interesting. I just want to see if I can get his stats up at all. Here we go. So yeah, he was hired as Man United manager, a straight replacement, and he's been there for 7 years since. So that's really interesting that he chose to do that, leaving the perfect team behind. They brought in Sarri. He retired after 1 year. They brought in Allegri, and he was in charge until the best team fell apart, and then he was sacked shortly after that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in for 2 years and was sacked. Mamadou Sakho came in for a year and was sacked, and now Paul Pogba will probably be the latest victim to also be sacked. But who knows, maybe he will bring glory back to Slough Town. We can only wait and see on that. In terms of their finances, they've still got extremely high reputation, but the finances now pretty dire. £8 million is all that they've got in terms of finances. They've still got the great facilities, a decent stadium, but they're really going to struggle. They're basically like Bournemouth now, I would say, except they've got a much higher reputation attached to them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Slough when we jump forward again in a minute. But now what we're going to do is have a quick look at the Gibraltar players and see how they're getting on in terms of their club. So you can see here, this is the neatest way that I can think to do this. Sorted by value, the highest value player is actually Warren Harris, playing now for PSG. He came in on a free transfer, and look at that record for PSG, goal a game, and he's a player who plays mainly down the right, so that's incredible that he's getting those sorts of stats in his season. You can see here, if this view is better, some people I think do like the graph form, I'm not a big fan of it. And if we look at his biography as well, he joined PSG, and for some reason it's not showing all of his individual titles with PSG, which is a shame. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but if we look at their competition record, they're winning a lot of league titles there. They've won every single one, so he'll be picking up all of those trophies as well. Drilin Krasniqi ended up at Manchester United, where he's quickly becoming probably the greatest Manchester United striker of all time. Those goal to game records with those assists, man of the match performances, really do put him in a very, very good stead. In terms of his biography, joining Manchester United with, of course, his former manager at Slough Town, now in charge of Manchester United. He has managed to win an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, and the Premier League title again in 2031. So that's fantastic. I'm really happy that Slough manager, who was a non-league manager of no renown until I put these perfect players in, he's gone to Manchester United and proven he can do it as a manager, winning a Premier League title, a Carabao Cup, and an FA Cup as well. So that's really nice to see. Ollie McCoy, who was one of the best players at the club, ended up going to Arsenal. And you can see he's still getting a fantastic rating. His average rating is down because he's not surrounded by the same perfect players that he had before. But in his time at Arsenal, he has managed to win a Champions League and a European Super Cup. So Arsenal winning the Champions League in 2030, that is incredible. Something that Krasniqi could not do at Manchester United. But then we get to the team that I think are really going to dominate. You've got the Man City trio here. Now fortunately they don't have one of the strikers, but they've got Worsfold in defence, McKnight in the middle, and they've got Felix Davies in goal. So the left back, Max Worsfold, who I imagine is playing further up the field, and it looks like it from these assist and goals records, having a fantastic time at the club. Lots of the man of the match awards going to him. And in terms of his biography, he's won quite a few different trophies here. So they've won the Champions League twice, they've won the European Super Cup twice, FA Cup twice, Carabao Cup 3 times, or thrice, Community Shield 3 times, and the Premier League 3 times as well. So Manchester City, the absolute dominant team, which isn't a surprise. I mean, he's on 300 grand a week, worth 74 million. But they've also got Jack McKnight, worth 68 million on 300 grand a week. He's got a great goal scoring assist record as well. Not quite as many man of the match performances for him, but he will have won all the same trophies as Max Worsfold. You've also got Felix Davies in there, worth 60 million, 275k for him, getting shortchanged by 25k a week because he's a keeper. But look at those average ratings, they are very good for a goalkeeper. Not getting any man of the match awards though, which is sad to see, but lots and lots of clean sheets, and he will also be having that same record as the other players at Manchester City. And then at Chelsea, you've got Aaron Cole, a central midfielder who's gone there. He's having a decent time of it. Lots of assists, lots of goals, which, given he's a defensive midfielder, is nice to see. And since joining Manchester City, I don't think he's actually won anything, is what I'm getting from this. Oh no, he has won some stuff with Chelsea. It's just so he joined them there. World Cup Football Championship. He's won the Europa League in 2033, the FA Cup in 2033, and the Community Shield in 2033. Chelsea not having the greatest time of it. Guy Hollis also at PSG, having a decent record there in the right back position. One really good season here, a lot of assists, which I can only assume is because of their tactic. But once more, it's not showing you those individual competition wins that he's had with PSG. It does show them here, Champions League titles, Club World Cup titles, but we'll come back to those individually. It doesn't show you the Liga victories, which I'm not a big fan that they aren't showing that. And then finally you come to Josh Jackman, who went to Liverpool, can play either side of the full-back role, and he's had a good record as well. Lots of the Man of the Match awards, despite being a full-back, which is where the real merit comes. And since joining Liverpool, he has won a few competitions. He's won the Europa League twice, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and finally the Premier League in 2033. Not many of them racking up Premier League titles, but some of them are managed to do it. Finally, you've got Howard Holloway, who is not one of the perfect players, but a lot of those guys doing really, really well. We also just want to have a look at Ada Okuragyehi, who's also at Manchester United. So they've got both of the best strikers and the former Slough manager there. And look at that goal to game record. I really like this guy. I think he's got a great record on him. And since joining Manchester United, he has got another Africa Cup of Nations with Nigeria, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and part of that Premier League winning team as well. I imagine he's got a lot of personal awards in there in terms of Golden Boot and other stuff. And finally, we have Cameron McGlip, who's also at Chelsea. So Chelsea with a really solid central midfield. He may well be playing as a defender, and you can see he's got a lot of Man of the Match awards if he is playing as a defender, and a few competition victories in there for him too. But he's currently at Chelsea. So the Premier League shaping up into a really interesting competition, and unsurprisingly, a lot of these players did end up going to the Premier League. If we have a quick look at the table, you can see, so Slough here in their final season played 38, won 38, only conceded 14 goals, absolutely dominating it. The following season, Man City taking it, Arsenal, Chelsea, United all up there, Liverpool with one of those players, but Slough dropping down to 11th. The year after that, Manchester City winning the title, losing only one game on the way. Manchester United down in 4th, but look at the number of goals they scored, highest in the league because of those two strikers. And Slough actually just missing out on Europe. The following year, Liverpool take the title. Again, Manchester United highest goal scorers in the league, but Arsenal second place on goal difference. And then City winning it the year after that, as Slough finished down in 10th. And actually, Man United not the top scorers. It went to Manchester City, who put 10 past Blackburn in that season. Arsenal also getting 90 goals. A lot of goals going in the Premier League, and that takes us to the current season. So a lot going on there. I won't take a look at the Gibraltar record. We know it's going to be perfect. So what I'll do now is just jump forward to the end of these guys' career, and we'll see which ones of them have had the best time of it. We'll only see their biography. I'm not going to show you all the in detail stats. We'll just go through each of the players, and we'll see where we get to. So they're 31, 30 at the moment. I think if we go 10 years ahead to 2044, most of these players will be at the end of their career or already retired. Well, we have now gone forward to 2044, and you can see, starting with Slough Town here, that their mid-table existence continued, finished as high as 7th one season, but then mostly became a top half team, which isn't bad. One season dropping down to 11th, but otherwise they've been in the top 10 for a long time now. Currently managed by Clement Longley. If we have a look at their competition screen, just to check if they've won any trophies, you can see they did win the FA Cup in 2037, so they're still winning some bits of silverware But that is the extent of the trophies that they've managed to win. Not many runner-up positions. Runner-up in the Carabao Cup in 2034, runner-up in the Community Shield in 2037. That FA Cup, their only post-perfect team competition victory for Slough. So it's not been the greatest of times for them. But part of that is because they lost their best players. And now all of these best players have retired. What I find really funny, though, is that Aida Akoragyehi, the Nigerian striker, has not made it into their best 11. He's been pushed out by someone called Jason Cashman, who's currently at the team and actually worth £71 million. They signed him for £81 million. And he's getting a cracking record. He almost looks like he might be a perfect player, joining them as a central midfielder, the Irishman. So he's actually pushed out one of the best 11, but I think it's mostly a tactical decision and what tactic they've decided to go for. But we'll start off with Felix Davies as a goalkeeper. We can have a look at his biography here. We can't look at his key stats, unfortunately, but you can see the record for Slough, 360 games, and look at that difference in goals conceded per game at Man City for a really long period of time as well. Felix Davies here, you can pause the screen and read through it in your own time, but he won 105 competitions in his career. Obviously a huge amount of those coming with Slough, but he also did a great time, and you can see here with Man City, Club World Championship, Community Shield 10 times, Carabao Cup 8 times, FA Cup 5 times, European Super Cup 5 times, Champions League 7 times, just with Man City, and the Football Championship, all the rest of it, 5 World Cups, 2 World Cups, but that's at his time at City. 105 competition records, World Golden Glove 17 times for Felix Davies. So if we look at that World Golden Glove list, it's just him with Slough and then with Man City, and finally some other goalkeepers get to come in and have the title. Josh Jackman as well, he had his time at Slough, then went to Liverpool. He had a really good time of it at Slough, and you can see again all these competitions that he won with Liverpool: Carabao Cup twice, FA Cup, European Super Cup, Europa League 4 times he won the Europa League, but they did also win 2 Champions League titles with Liverpool, so not all over for him there. I don't know if he won any of the personal accolades here. World Cup Best Player, runner-up, and World Cup Golden Boot 3rd place. Shortlisted for the World Footballer of the Year 17 times, Josh Jackman. That's impressive for a defender. Cameron McGlip, the Scotsman, currently manager of Plymouth. So Cameron McGlip, definitely one of the people I'm going to make a little note to check in on in a few years' time to see how he's doing as a manager, because he's got some pretty good stats. I'm not going to change him, I'm just going to see how he gets on. But if we look at his biography, he didn't have the best of times when he moved to Chelsea, because he didn't win as many competitions. I'm just having a look, so I think pretty much all of these came with Slough. He moved to Chelsea, Club World Championship, Community Shield, FA Cup, and the Europa League 3 times. But he didn't win an awful lot else, and then he went on to be a manager. He had a spell with Manchester City where he made 50 appearances. Did he play for Manchester City as well? He did. He made a £6 million transfer to Manchester City. I was not expecting that. I genuinely thought he would have just spent his entire time there. But he won more at Manchester City than he did at Chelsea. He won a Community Shield, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Super Cup, Champions League, and 2 Premier League titles before going on to become the manager of Plymouth. That's really funny. He won way more in that end of his career twilight with Man City than he did at his many years at Chelsea. That's absolutely crazy that's how that worked out. You've also got Guy Hollis here. We'll go through these a bit quicker now. He's also a scout now, so I'll keep a record of Guy Hollis. We'll check in on him later as well and see if he does eventually go for a manager job or something else. But you can see he went to PSG, had a long time there, And then he went to Liverpool as well, so he's another one that made an extra change. £33 million for a perfect player is crazy that PSG let him go. But he went to Liverpool and also racked up a huge number of trophy wins. Not as many individual honours, but he did get shortlisted for the World Footballer of the Year 3 times, Guy Hollis. Max Worsfold as well. He just had his time at Man City, has retired as a player, but this is a long list of accomplishments. 103 team, 28 personal in terms of victories. And he went to Man City and won the huge number of honours that we know that he could win. He also had a huge number of personal honours, but we can look through those in a bit more detail later. That was Max Worsfold. Next is Jack McKnight, also now a manager. So another one that we're going to want to keep an eye on and see how he does. He doesn't have the best rating and he only has a C licence, but that may change if he gets support roles over time. If we look at his career stats, he was at Man City as well, so we won't dwell on Jack McKnight either because he'll have very similar records. Aaron Cull, currently a coach at Blackburn, so there's a few of them who have actually gone on to various different roles, and you can see him there, coach and assistant manager, so he could go on to have a great record. Spent his time at Chelsea, so we know he didn't win an awful lot there. A few competition victories in there, Europa League, but otherwise not a lot going on for Aaron Cull. Warren Harris, also a manager. So a few of them going into this role, that adaptability and determination, going to be interested to see if that helps. But he spent his entire time at PSG until retiring. He's definitely going to be one of their greatest players. You can have a look at that there if you want. Because it doesn't show the individual competition wins, I don't want to dwell on him too. We don't care about Jason Cashman because he wasn't a perfect player. Ollie McCoy, currently an assistant manager at Liverpool, so another one to check in on later. He was one of the major players for a long time. He also seems to have the best potential kind of stats here for coaching, so definitely worth keeping an eye on. He went to Arsenal, spent the rest of his career there, won a few different competitions with Arsenal, but not as many as you might have hoped for. But definitely feel free to pause the screen, have a read if you want to. And finally we end up with Julian Krasniqi, who spent his entire time at Manchester United, won an awful lot of competitions with them as well. What I do want to check on is Manchester United's manager history as well, where they had Neil Baker in charge, and he's still there. Neil Baker, still in charge, nearly 20 years in charge. He's now 64. He's still only got his A licence, but look at this. That time with Slough, all those victories, and now look at what he's still winning Champions League titles. This is the greatest biography of all. That's what I'm saying. This is incredible that he's managed to do this. All these competition wins with Slough, but then on his own merit he goes to United. Community Shield, Carabao Cup twice, FA Cup 3 times, European Super Cup 3 times, and Champions League 3 times, with 2 Premier League titles as well. Neil Baker is the star of this experiment. What a man. Still there, still winning trophies, and surviving the Manchester United board for so long. That's so nice to see. But Julian Krasniqi doing really well. Similar competition record, and obviously will have won a lot of trophies. And then at the end, Ada Akuragiehi, who is also a manager. That's what I wanted to see. Lots of players for us to hopefully see do well as managers. But you can see in his biography as well, also with Manchester United, he didn't leave United. He was there the whole time. They really benefited from two great strikers that whole time, and he won a lot of individual awards. Now I do want to have a look here. World Player of the Year did get dished out a fair amount. Akuragiehi won quite a few of these. I will look at the Ballon d'Or actually, which I think is the most prestigious one. And you can see that Ollie McCoy won the last 2 before Slough's team were disbanded. He won another one a couple of years later, but Warren Harris getting a couple. And then Akuragiehi gets 3 and 5. Ollie McCoy gets 3 and 4. Krasniqi gets a couple. McKnight gets one. Akuragiehi gets another. And Jack McKnight is the one to finish off as the greatest player, going right up to the most recent season. I think, he actually won the latest one. So he's only just retired. But he had a great time. I don't know who won the most. I think it's Akuragiehi, or is it Ollie McCoy? So Ollie McCoy 3, 4, 5, 6, and Akuragiehi with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think Ollie McCoy has just sneaked that. I don't think Jack McKnight's got enough. So Ollie McCoy, probably the most decorated player of all time, despite being at Arsenal for a lot of that time, which is probably more impressive. I think he deserves it, to be fair, winning those with Arsenal. Jack McKnight, though, doing very well, and Warren Harris as well. So that is probably it for the team. I'm not going to worry too much about Gibraltar. I'll quickly show you how they're getting on up to this point. Now that their players are retired, they've already dropped down to 3rd. I imagine their senior squad schedule doesn't make for pretty reading, although a draw with Spain and then a victory over Northern Ireland, maybe it is worth keeping an eye on them. And their competition record: 4 World Cups, 4 European Championships, 6 international leagues. Now, because this experiment's going on for a little while, I'm just going to jump ahead. We'll check in on the managers, see if they manage to have anything like a decent career, and then we will finally end this experiment. Well, we've gone a long way into the future, and I just wanted to show Gibraltar now ranked 69th in the world, which is actually not too bad as rankings go. They're still holding up their position a little bit. But if we just have a look at their competition history, they did manage to win another international league. Or did they? No, that's 6. I thought that was 7 then. They still got the same number, but you can see they're going up and down. They're around the 60s. Their senior squad schedule, they do win matches still, but they're against the kind of teams you would expect Gibraltar to maybe have a chance of beating. I don't think they've been at a major competition for a very, very, very long time, if ever. Yeah, they've never qualified for a major trophy since the greatest team were pulled apart. If we have a look at Slough, you'll see they are still in the Premier League, and they've actually been winning titles again. Slough have been winning titles. That's amazing. They've come back from being down in that mid-table position. I want to have a look at their league position records here. They've been winning titles for a while. Look at that. The team were disbanded back in 2029. Sitting around mid-table, they get back into Champions League positions and they win their first title 47-48. It's a while before they win the next one, 57-58. But then they win 3 in a row, 4 in a row, and now they're dominating the Premier League. That's amazing. Or maybe they're not. Am I looking at the wrong division here? It says that they were... Oh no, that's their highest league position, not where they finished. That's really frustrating. But you can see the past winners here. Slough have won a few Premier League titles. 3 Premier League titles in the bag for them over this time. If we look at their competition record, they've not won another Champions League, but the 3 additional Premier League titles in the 70s, a couple of FA Cups. They've also won a few Carabao Cups as well. So that's so nice to see that they did eventually come back. And then finally, I don't know why I'm looking at all of that. If we have a look at their best 11, it's not changed much. Pellegrini's joined them, who's currently playing. So he's one of the players helping to win the Premier League title at the moment. And he's sneaked into the best 11 there. But otherwise, it's the same great players from before. So Cameron McGlip was a manager for a little time. He hung up his boots and he had a spell with Plymouth for 3 years, but didn't have another job after that. Cameron McGlip. Ada Okorigyehi, he was a manager for a little while, but it doesn't look like he ever got a job, unfortunately. So I'm just double checking. Yeah, he never had a job as a manager, which is a shame that he wasn't able to be given a job. Jack McKnight, if we have a quick look at Jack McKnight, he was a manager for a little while, I think. But again, yeah, no actual job. Joins Man City, but that's it, unfortunately, for Jack McKnight. Guy Hollis, he's still going. He's a chief scout now for Slough. That's what we want to see. Chief scout for Slough. Retired as a player, signed by Burnley as a scout, Arsenal as a scout, and now he is chief scout for Slough. Returned to Slough in 2043, and he's been there ever since. That's a really long time to have been at Slough. 2046 he joined them, and he's still there now as chief scout. That's great to see that he returned home, Guy Hullis. We also have Warren Harris, who did try to become a coach, but it looks like he never actually got a job. We also have Ollie McCoy, who also never had a proper job. First non-playing role, under 23s assistant manager. 2050 became Liverpool's coach for 2 years, and then worked as an assistant manager. I assume he wasn't coach in terms of a manager, was he, Ollie McCoy? Did he ever get the role? Doesn't look like Ollie McCoy ever got the role, but he was assistant manager. A break from football for 2 years before going to Leeds, but it looks like he's not there anymore. I don't think. No, he's not there anymore. So at least he had a decent assistant manager career, Ollie McCoy, the most decorated player from the Slough era. And then Aaron Cull was the final one, and he had a spell as a manager, to be fair. So coach at Blackburn for 4 years, 2 spells as caretaker manager, went back to Blackburn as assistant manager, caretaker manager again of Blackburn, went to Chelsea as assistant manager, 2 spells as caretaker manager and an interim manager, went to Burnley as assistant manager, and then Chelsea as assistant manager. I don't think he won any competitions in those times as a manager, unfortunately, but not bad staff history. There you go, you can see it listed there. Good little record, in and out as assistant manager, caretaker manager, interim manager. Aaron Cull did the lot, and that is it for our Slough players. That is their career, that's their season. I do just want to finally check in on our good old friend, what's his name, Neil Baker. If we look at his history as a manager, he was at Manchester United for 20 years, 3 Champions League titles, Europa League, European Super Cup 3 times, FA Cup 3 times, and the Premier League twice. He never won more than 2 Premier Leagues in 20 years at United, but 3 Champions League titles in the space of 4 years. I think we can give him that. So Neil Baker, absolute legend. One of the most memorable people in any of my experiments, without a doubt. Now, if you did enjoy this experiment, please do drop a like down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for the next experiment, which should be out tomorrow, and leave a comment for any experiment suggestions that you have down below. But until next time, see ya.